this is the Assassin stream. This is going to be the Assassin videos. They'll be up on YouTube very shortly after the stream, hopefully. And this is not only how to play Assassins, but also how to play against them. This video is going to focus not only on the beginner aspect of things, how to get introduced into Assassins, but it should also be really useful for the more advanced players. I'm going to be covering things specifically that I didn't know, or things that I think a lot of the League community doesn't know about these champions. We'll be going over every single champion in detail, going over their abilities, all that stuff. We've got information on how they do in pro play, how they do in solo queue. We'll be talking a little bit about their lore for each one of the champions. We'll be talking about their power spikes, what's their common runes and build paths, all of that stuff. We won't go into a lot of like really in-depth like combos or things like that. There are plenty of great players out there who have very detailed combo guides, and I definitely want to point you towards those people because they are far better at those champions than I am. I'm going to focus on things more from an analytical perspective and from a numbers perspective, and also from a details perspective, so you guys can learn the details about these champions that a lot of people don't know. Alright, so we're going to move on to the stealth assassins. So these are going to be Evelynn, Kha'Zix, and Shaco, and not surprisingly, these are the three champions that are mainly played in the jungle, the three assassins that are mainly played in jungle. We'll talk about Qiyana jungle later. But yeah, these stealth assassins typically played in the jungle. And the first one we're going to talk about is Evelynn. So Evelynn is known as the Agony's Embrace. She was released way back when, 2009. Got a full rework in 2017. She's definitely had a lot of changes and iterations. I think she's had like 4 different versions. And it's mainly because she's got the perma-stealth mechanic that makes her really hard to balance. So she's broken the game at some points really early in the testing. She was basically permanently invisible, and you could do like Sunfire Cape shenanigans with her and stuff like that. So yeah, she's been a troubled child in the past, but it feels like she's pretty balanced now in as far as at least solo queue is concerned. So she had a massive presence season 4 in pro play, 46% presence, which is off the charts. Very, very strong. But from season 6 to season 9, she's only had 1 to 2% presence in professional play. So she's kind of dropped off as far as her presence in professional play. She is very strong in solo queue, currently hovering between a 52 and a 54% win rate. She is an AP jungler, which is pretty rare. There aren't that many champions that are AP that can jungle. And obviously, you get Echo, Fiddlesticks, Elise. There's a couple others that can jungle that are AP. But Evelynn is one of the few, so she's a great champion to have in your back pocket if your team decides to go all AD and you are a jungler. She is pretty physically weak if she doesn't win a lot of straight up fights, but she does some terrifying damage if she's able to surprise people. So as far as Evelynn's lore is concerned, she is a primordial being. Like she's ageless basically. They have no idea how old she is. She may have existed from the dawn of creation, but she was awakened by the Rune Wars because she gains pleasure from pain and anguish and the loss of other sentient beings. So that actually gives her pleasure whenever a sentient being feels these negative emotions. So after the Rune Wars ended, she basically was like, didn't understand. She's like, why am I not getting any more pain or anguish or anything like that from these sentient beings? So in order to like kind of chase that high that she felt during the Rune Wars, she created a body for herself to more appealing to mortals. So initially the body she created was kind of terrifying and she would scare all the mortals off. And she learned over the years that she needed to create a form that was more pleasing to mortals that wouldn't be afraid of her. So she took the form of this very beautiful woman. And basically she kind of lures people in and then just tortures them. So she basically uses their lust against them. And that's kind of the tactic that she's perfected over, hundreds or even thousands of years. So with Evelynn, she is a jungler mainly. I have seen her situationally played in mid lane. But kiting the jungle camps is really important with Evelynn because she is pretty squishy. She can kite jungle camps really well with her Q. She can do a leashless Raptors level 1, which means that you can hide which side you start on. So basically you can gain lane priority in both top lane and bot lane. You don't need to get a leash. It makes it very hard for them to figure out where you are. She has power spikes at level 3 and level 6. So yeah, once she gets her 3 abilities, she's pretty strong. Once she gains level 6 and she'll gain her camouflage, she's really strong, as well as her ultimate. She's very, very strong mid-game, falls off late game, very feast or famine. In the early game, she's not a very strong duelist. She's more opportunistic. But once she gets a few kills under her belt, she can really one-shot most squishies with ease. Like, she doesn't even need her full combo to kill a lot of squishy champions. So, Evelynn, her passive, it's called Demon Shade. So it grants camouflage at level 6. So what camouflage means is that you have to have like a pink ward, or you need to have a sweeper, or basically you have to be within a certain range to be able to see her. So camouflage is not the combat invisibility, it's the out of combat invisibility. So it basically, her having the camouflage negates how you would ward normally to see a jungle gank. So most normal ward locations are not very good against Evelynn. You need to completely change how you ward if there's an Evelynn on the enemy team. And the way you need to ward if Evelynn is on the enemy team is you need to get wards onto her jungle camps. So instead of putting a ward, if you're the mid laner, don't put the ward in like a pixel brush or something. Put the ward on the raptor camp. So that way when she's on the raptor camp, you'll see her on the raptor camp, because otherwise she'll go invisible right after she takes the raptors. Same thing with top lane. You want to put it on her Gromp or on her Krugs, depending on what side you're on. You definitely, the most of those wards are just not useful. You need to push in. You need to get that deep vision in order to be able to track her. The other big thing that most people don't know about Evelynn's passive is it grants her massive amounts of healing when she's out of combat. It's really absurd how much healing she gets. It's 15 to 75 based on her level per second. So it's like Garen passive, potentially on steroids. The trigger for the healing is 250 to 590 health, and it scales with 250% of her AP. So basically, the more AP Evelynn gets, the higher threshold she can start healing from, basically. And she'll heal up even more. So like when you get into the mid and late game, Evelynn can heal to like 60, 75% health, even when she was down at like 5% health. So the big thing with Evelynn is that as long as she's alive, she's still a threat. Like even if you saw her like escape with like 5% health, she's still a massive threat, because as soon as she gains that out of combat healing, she can go back in and she'll be back up to well above 50% health when she goes back in. So you have to be really, really careful. If Evelynn escapes, she's still a threat. You always have to remember that. Don't think, oh, she was at 5% health, she definitely backed. No, she didn't back. She's waiting for you in a brush, and she's going to kill you. All right, Evelynn's Q, this is her bread and butter. It's called Hate Spike. So she throws out a skill shot. It's the initial dart that will mark the target. The marked target will take bonus damage from the next 3 basic attacks or abilities. And it can be recast 3 times to deal a line of damage to all enemies struck. It basically is what allows her to clear camps really quickly. She can kite camps really quickly. She'll gain a lot of sustain off of Hunter's Talisman when she's kiting those camps. And yeah, it's a really effective tool for her to be able to clear jungle camps quickly. And it's also really useful when she's doing her ganks, because she can rapid fire cast it multiple times. And it will prioritize champions. So that's another common thing that most people don't know, is that it will prioritize champions if champions are within range. And the big other thing about it is that if she hits a champion with that initial spike, the first spike she throws out, they take that bonus magic damage. That's also really important. That bonus magic damage is how she can one-shot people without even utilizing her full combo. So Evelynn's W is Allure, It's a very, very long-ranged ability, and what it does is it curses a target for 5 seconds. They'll get that little display above their head, the little heart above their head. The next attack or ability will expunge the curse, slowing the target by 65%. If the target was cursed for greater than 2.5 seconds, the target will also be charmed. If the target is charmed and they are, not if they're charmed, but if it's against champions, then the expunge will also reduce their magic resistance for 4 seconds. So the magic resistance reduction is 25 to 35%. So this is actually really great. So even if the champion has some MR, you basically negate like 25 to 35% of their MR with this ability. And if you use the allure on monsters, it gives you a massive bonus damage whenever you proc it. So the bonus damage is 250 to 450 bonus magic damage, which scales with 60% of her AP. So this also allows her to clear those single target camps much faster when she uses her W on them. So yeah, those are big things that a lot of people don't know, is that she doesn't need to wait the full 2.5 seconds. She can proc it early and it would be a slow instead of a charm. And it also reduces the magic damage and makes her able to shred champions a lot easier. And it also gives her massive damage boost to monsters, which makes her much faster when she's clearing camps. So Evelynn's E is called Whiplash. So it deals magic damage and percent maximum health damage. So the percent maximum health damage is 3%, and then it's plus 1.5% per 100 AP. If she's got the if she's in her passive, if she's got the camouflage from her passive, which is called Demon Shade, it turns into a dash. So that's really important. Is you want to use this ability when you're camouflaged, when you've got your Demon Shade up, because it can be a gap closer as well as a damage dealing ability. Her E does apply on hit effects. It gives her movement speed for 2 seconds after using it. And yeah, as I've already talked about, when her passive is active, her E is empowered. It'll dash the target and it will also deal increased damage. So it's great. It's great when used as an opener. So you dash the target, deals empowered damage, and then you can follow up with the Q and your ultimate if you need to. So Evelynn's ultimate is Last Caress. It is AoE magic damage. It has a range of 500, which is pretty huge. And it's basically a half of a circle in front of her. It does 140% bonus damage to champions that are below 30% maximum health. So it is a great execute ability. It basically ensures that you will get a kill if the champion is below 30% health. It also makes Evelynn untargetable and causes her to blink backwards 700 units. So it's a great way for Evelynn to... Evelynn is not a tanky champion, but it's a great way for her to tank for a very short period of time and then get back to safety while still doing a massive amount of damage. It basically gives her artificial tankiness. It can also be used as a gap closer. So if you aim it backwards, she will instead dash 700 units towards the target rather than away from it. Ideally, I would not use it that way unless you're like positive that you can kill the target with the rest of your damage from your E and your Q. But in general, yeah, her ultimate is really powerful. I really like her ultimate. It makes her really slippery. It allows her to basically get out once she's gotten in, and it makes her, it makes her feel really strong because she basically can execute most squishy champions with that ultimate. In general, you always want to rank up Evelynn's ultimate first. You want to max her Q, then her E, then her W in that order. I have seen some people that max W over E, but in general, most of the high elo Evelynns that I've seen, they do QEW. You typically always want to take Electrocute on Evelynn for that additional burst damage. You're going to pretty much always go Flash and Smite unless you're not playing her in the jungle. You definitely want to get a Dark Seal on your first back with Evelynn. So typically you want to try and get Stalker's Blade and a Dark Seal, which I believe is around 1,000 gold. So ideally you want to try and have 1,000 gold on your first back. So you get that Stalker's Blade and the Dark Seal. You can start stacking up that Dark Seal. So Dark Seal is actually really gold effective. or gold efficient rather. And if you start gaining stacks on that Dark Seal, then you can potentially turn it into a Magi's if you really start carrying hardcore. If not, it's still really gold efficient, and it gives her a little bit more sustain, a little bit more health, all of that good stuff. Some people favor going Sorcerer Shoes before Runic Echoes. They like to rush that tier 2 boots because it gives you that additional magic pen, and it also gives her some really needed movement speed. So Evelynn's gap closers are pretty short ranged on her E. So yeah, a lot of people really favor going Sorcerer Shoes before Runic Echoes. Do not go Mobies. She's got actually like a really horrible win rate with Mobies. I know that was the play style a long time ago on Evelynn, was to go Moby boots, but really there's a huge win rate disparity between people who go for Sorcerer Shoes or Mobies, and pretty much every single high elo Evelynn main I've seen advocates that you go Sorcerer Shoes over Mobies. Lichbane is pretty much what you want to go after Runic Echoes. So you finish your Runic Echoes, you go right into Lichbane after that, and then everything's kind of situational from then on out. You can always go for Zanyas, you can go for Death Cap, you can go for Void Staff. Pretty much any item that has AP is going to be good on Evelynn, but they're all situational depending on how much magic resist they're building, how many squishy champions versus tank champions there are, things like that. Yeah, the big thing with, that's a really good point, Vlad. I know I mentioned this already, but I'm going to re-emphasize it, is that you want to ward the jungle camps if there's an Evelynn on the enemy team. That's like the number one thing if you're facing an Evelynn. You have to get wards on her jungle camps. Like, the normal warding locations are not effective. Like, you can still put vision wards in the normal locations, but your yellow trinket wards, you have to put on her jungle camps. Alright guys, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. If you feel like I've missed anything essential on Evelynn, please leave a comment below. All I ask is that you be respectful. Hope everybody has a fantastic day. This is Randomonium, signing off.